Cast out with 3 hungry daughters, she saved a stranger. He rewrote their fate. Maria wiped the sweat from her brow as she carried the last box out of the tiny apartment. The walls, once bright and welcoming, now looked dull and worn. She glanced at her 3 daughters, each holding a small bundle of clothes, and her heart ached. Ella, the eldest at 12, tried to look strong, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. Sophia, 10, clutched her favorite doll, and little Mia, only 6, held onto Maria's coat with wide, anxious eyes. They had nowhere to go, and the cold autumn wind bit at their skin as if reminding them of their fragile situation. Ever since her husband left years ago, Maria had been struggling alone. Some days it felt as if the world was against her. She worked long hours at the diner downtown, barely earning enough to cover rent and food. Every paycheck was carefully calculated, every coin counted. But today, all that careful planning had failed. The landlord had been firm, no excuses, no extensions. They had to leave. The car they had borrowed from Maria's mother's neighbor was small and old, the kind that rattled and groaned with every bump on the street. Maria loaded the boxes, trying to shield her daughters from the bitter wind. They climbed inside, the girls shivering under thin blankets Maria had managed to save. The headlights cut through the dark streets, revealing closed shops and empty sidewalks. It was a quiet part of town, the kind of place where neighbors only saw each other when absolutely necessary. Maria drove slowly, unsure where they could go. The thought of sleeping in the car for the night made her stomach twist. Her daughters were hungry. Their small lunch had been eaten hours ago, and they had nothing to eat now. She had a few granola bars and a small loaf of bread, but it wouldn't last. She tried to stay calm for the girls, forcing a smile even as her own chest tightened with anxiety. As they drove, Maria noticed a man sitting on a bench near the park. His coat was worn, his hair messy, and he looked tired and cold. There was a quiet loneliness about him, the kind that made Maria pause. She parked the car a little distance away and watched him for a moment. Something in her heart stirred. Despite their own struggle, she knew what it felt like to be helpless and cold. She couldn't ignore him. "Girls," Maria whispered, "stay here. I'll be right back." Ella gave a small nod, biting her lip to hold back tears. Sophia hugged her doll tightly, and Mia held Maria's coat, not fully understanding, but sensing that something important was happening. Maria approached the man cautiously, holding the small bag with the granola bars and bread. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I don't have much, but you can have some food." She handed him the small bundle. The man looked up at her, surprise and gratitude mixing in his eyes. He hesitated, then accepted the food with a trembling hand. "Thank you," he whispered. I didn't expect anyone to care." Maria smiled gently, trying to keep her own emotions in check. "Everyone needs help sometimes," she said, "even strangers." He looked at her for a long moment as if trying to memorize her face. Then he nodded, a small smile forming. Maria felt a strange warmth despite the cold. They exchanged no more words, there was no need. She returned to the car, the girls looking at her with curious eyes. "Who was that, Mama?" Mia asked softly. "Just someone who needed a little help," Maria replied, keeping her voice steady. "We all helped in some way." The girls nodded and Maria started driving again, her mind racing. Where could they go? Shelters were full and friends lived far away. She decided to drive toward the outskirts of town, hoping to find an open diner or late-night cafe where she could at least buy something warm to eat. The streets were empty, and the city lights flickered like distant stars. The girls huddled close to her, each wrapped in blankets, their heads resting against her arms. Maria's heart ached seeing their small bodies so fragile and frightened. She thought about the times when her husband would have joked with the girls, kissed them goodbye, and told them everything would be okay. Now she was alone in that role, carrying all the weight on her shoulders. Hours passed slowly. The car's engine hummed, and Maria's eyes grew heavy. She fought off sleep, knowing that if she rested, the girls would be left in danger. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, and she realized she hadn't eaten since the morning. Her hand tightened on the steering wheel, determination coursing through her veins. She had to keep moving. Eventually, she spotted a small shelter with a dim light shining through the window. Relief washed over her, and she parked the car as close as she could. Inside, a few people were already waiting, and the air smelled faintly of soup and cleaning supplies. Maria helped her daughters out of the car, their little legs stiff from sitting so long. They walked together, hand in hand, toward the door. Inside, the warmth of the room enveloped them. Volunteers offered blankets, hot drinks, and a small meal. Ella and Sophia ate quickly, while little Mia nibbled slowly, her wide eyes taking in everything. Maria sat down beside them, exhausted but grateful. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to breathe. As they ate, Maria thought about the stranger on the bench. There was something about him that stayed in her mind, a quiet kindness she hadn't expected to encounter in such a harsh night. She didn't know his story, and she didn't need to, but she felt a connection, as if their paths had crossed for a reason. The night dragged on slowly. The shelter was noisy with whispers and footsteps, but Maria kept her daughters close. She told them stories about better days, about hope and courage, trying to shield them from fear. Her own heart ached with uncertainty, but she refused to let them see her despair. Hours later, as the night deepened, Maria found herself staring out of the shelter window. The city lights twinkled faintly, and she wondered what the future would bring. She didn't have an answer, but she knew one thing: she would protect her daughters no matter what. Hunger, cold, fear, none of it could break her resolve. Somewhere in the darkness, she thought again of the man on the bench. His eyes, grateful and weary, lingered in her memory. She had helped him without expecting anything in return, just as she had always tried to do for her daughters. And somehow, deep down, she felt that this small act of kindness might come back to her in ways she could not yet imagine. The night finally grew quiet. The girls, exhausted from the day's events, fell asleep in the shelter beds, their small bodies curled together for warmth. Maria stayed awake, watching over them, her mind replaying every challenge, every fear, and every hope she carried. She knew tomorrow would be just as difficult, perhaps more so, but she also knew that as long as she had her daughters, she had a reason to fight. And in the quiet moments before dawn, Maria whispered a promise to herself and to the children. No matter how hard life became, no matter how many doors were closed to them, they would never give up. They would face the world together, and somehow they would survive. Outside, the first light of morning touched the city streets. Maria felt a flicker of hope, fragile but real. The world was harsh, but it had not defeated them yet. Somewhere, perhaps, the stranger she had helped that night was also beginning a day filled with possibilities. And though she didn't know it yet, that small act of kindness would set in motion a chain of events that could rewrite their lives forever. Maria closed her eyes for a brief moment, feeling the warmth of the shelter and the soft breaths of her daughters beside her. She allowed herself one deep, steadying breath. One step at a time, one day at a time, she would lead her family through this storm. She didn't know the future, but she would meet it with courage, love, and the unshakable bond of a mother's heart. And so, as the sun rose over the city, the small family of four clung together, tired, hungry, but alive, ready for whatever challenges the next day might bring. The morning after the cold night at the shelter, Maria woke to the soft hum of the heater and the quiet breathing of her daughters. They were all sleeping, their small bodies curled under thin blankets, and for a moment she allowed herself a sigh of relief. The night had been long and difficult, but somehow they had made it through. Outside, the first rays of sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the room. Maria got up quietly, careful not to wake the girls. Her stomach still ached from hunger, but she forced herself to focus. Today, she needed to think clearly. She had to find food for them, figure out a place to stay, and plan how to survive another day. Every decision mattered, and she knew that one wrong step could put them back on the streets. After helping the girls get dressed, Maria stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The streets were waking slowly. Delivery trucks rumbled by, and a few people hurried past, faces buried in scarves and jackets. She noticed that even in the harshness of the city, life continued. Children walked to school, neighbors exchanged greetings, and the world didn't stop, even for those who struggled. As Maria walked back to the shelter entrance, she saw a familiar figure standing near the edge of the park across the street. It was the man from the previous night, the one she had offered food to. His coat still looked worn, and he seemed lost in thought, but when he saw Maria, a faint smile appeared on his face. He approached her slowly, his steps cautious but deliberate. "Maria?" he asked softly. "It's me, Daniel." Maria froze for a moment, surprised that he knew her name. "Daniel," she said, her voice uncertain. You found me?" He nodded, his eyes full of sincerity. "I wanted to make sure you and the girls were safe. I know it's strange, and I don't mean to intrude, but I couldn't stop thinking about what happened last night. You helped me, even when you had almost nothing yourself." Maria looked away, unsure how to respond. She had learned over the years to be cautious around strangers, especially those who offered help without reason. "It's okay," she said finally. "We're managing." Daniel shook his head gently. "No, you're not. You've been through so much, and I don't want to see you struggle like this. Please let me help, even if just a little." Maria hesitated, glancing back at her daughters through the window. They were smiling sleepily, unaware of the conversation taking place outside. She felt a tug at her heart, a mix of hope and fear. She had been burned before by promises that never came true, but something in Daniel's eyes felt different. There was no judgment, no expectation, just a quiet concern. "All right," she said softly after a pause. "But just small things, nothing big, we have to be careful." Daniel smiled, relief evident on his face. "Of course, I understand completely." He guided them to a nearby cafe where he bought them breakfast. The girls' eyes widened at the sight of pancakes and hot chocolate. Maria hadn't seen them eat so happily in a long time. As they ate, Daniel kept the conversation light, asking about the girls, school, and their favorite things. He never pried into the family's personal struggles but listened carefully, showing genuine interest. After breakfast, he walked Maria to a nearby community center. "There's a program here that helps families get temporary housing, meals, and sometimes even work opportunities," he explained. "I spoke to the coordinator, and they said there might be room for you and your daughters." Maria's heart lifted slightly. The idea of having a safe place to stay, even temporarily, seemed almost too good to be true. She looked at Daniel, unsure how to express the mix of gratitude and disbelief she felt. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Daniel replied. "Just focus on getting through the day." At the community center, Maria and her daughters were welcomed warmly. Volunteers showed them beds, provided clean clothes, and offered a hot lunch. For the first time in weeks, Maria felt a sense of security. Her daughters laughed as they explored the small playground outside, and Maria allowed herself to breathe, even if just for a moment. As the day went on, Daniel visited several times, always quietly offering support. He helped Maria fill out forms for temporary assistance, and even arranged for a local grocery store to donate some food. Maria couldn't believe the generosity of a man she barely knew, yet every action was done with such humility and care that it felt natural. Over the next few days, Maria began to notice small changes in their lives. The girls had regular meals, a safe place to sleep, and a little hope in their hearts. Maria, meanwhile, started thinking about work. The community center offered part-time opportunities for parents, and Daniel suggested that she might consider joining. "It could be a way to stabilize things for you and the girls," he said. At first, Maria was hesitant. She hadn't worked outside the diner for years, and the idea of starting something new felt overwhelming. But Daniel encouraged her gently, reminding her that she was strong and capable. "You've faced more than most people ever will, Maria," he said. "You can handle this." Maria's daughters noticed the subtle changes too. Ella, once quiet and reserved, began helping with small chores at the community center. Sophia shared her love for drawing with other children, and little Mia formed a small group of friends, laughing and playing as if the past hardships had never existed. Seeing them happy, Maria felt a warmth in her heart she hadn't felt in a long time. One afternoon, Daniel brought a small surprise. "I found a school nearby that offers meals for children in need," he said. "I think your daughters might like it, and it will help you focus on work." Maria's eyes filled with tears. She had worried constantly about their education, wondering how they would keep up without proper meals or support. The idea that her daughters could attend school, eat well, and make friends was almost overwhelming. "I don't know what to say," she whispered again. "You don't have to say anything," Daniel repeated with a smile. "Just accept it. You've earned a chance at a better life." With Daniel's help, Maria enrolled her daughters in the new school. They walked together on the first day, their small hands clutching hers tightly. Ella looked nervous, Sophia whispered questions about the teachers, and Mia clung to Maria's coat. Watching them, Maria felt a surge of pride and hope. They were stepping into a new chapter, and she would be there every step of the way. Life began to settle into a rhythm. Maria worked at the community center, helping prepare meals and organizing small events. Her daughters went to school, their laughter echoing in the hallways. Daniel continued to visit occasionally, never imposing, always offering quiet encouragement. His presence became a steadying force, a reminder that kindness still existed in a world that often felt harsh and unforgiving. One evening, as Maria prepared dinner for the girls at the community center, she noticed Daniel watching from the doorway. He smiled and nodded, silently letting her know he was there. "You've done an amazing job," he said softly. "The girls are thriving and you're doing everything you can to keep them safe." Maria shook her head. "I'm just trying to do what's right," she said. "It's not easy, Daniel. Some days I feel like I'm failing them." "You're not failing," he replied gently. "You're their mother. You faced more than anyone should, and you've never given up. That counts for everything." For the first time, Maria allowed herself to feel the full weight of hope. Maybe life wasn't over. Maybe, with the right support, she could rebuild a future for her daughters. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. She had learned to protect her heart, to expect little from the world. But Daniel's unwavering kindness was breaking down those walls, slowly, carefully, and without pressure. As the days passed, Maria began to notice small changes in herself, too. She felt stronger, more confident, and less alone. The fear that had dominated her life began to fade, replaced by a cautious optimism. She even started imagining a future beyond survival, a life where her daughters could laugh freely, learn, and grow without constant worry. One night, as they all sat together in the small community center room, Daniel arrived with another surprise. "I spoke to a friend who runs a local cafe," he said. "They're looking for someone to help in the kitchen. It's part-time, but it could be a start for you." Maria looked at him unsure. I don't know," she said. "What if I fail? What if it doesn't work?" Daniel shook his head. "You won't fail. You're brave, resourceful, and determined. And even if things are hard, you won't be alone. I'll be here to support you." The girls watched silently, sensing the importance of the moment. Ella squeezed Maria's hand, Sophia leaned against her mother's arm, and Mia looked up with wide, trusting eyes. In that moment, Maria realized that accepting help didn't make her weak. It made her strong. It made her ready to fight for a better life. That night, as they all lay down to sleep, Maria thought about the stranger she had helped weeks ago. She had never expected anything in return, and yet that simple act of kindness had come back to her in ways she could never have imagined. It was proof that small gestures, even in the darkest times, could change everything. And somewhere in the city, Daniel thought the same. He had been lost, lonely, and unsure of how to move forward, but Maria's courage had inspired him. Their paths had crossed at the right moment, and together they were beginning a journey that would rewrite their lives forever. Maria closed her eyes, a sense of calm washing over her. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face it. With her daughters beside her and a stranger who had become a friend, she believed that survival was no longer enough. Now there was hope, real, tangible hope. Maria woke early that morning, the soft light of dawn filtering through the small window of the community center room. Her daughters were still asleep, their gentle breathing filling the quiet space. She rubbed her eyes and tried to shake off the fatigue that had been her constant companion for weeks. Even with small improvements, life was still a challenge. But for the first time, she felt a sense of possibility, a tiny spark of hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. After waking her daughters, Maria guided them through their morning routine. Breakfast was simple, yet warm and nourishing, provided by the volunteers at the center. Ella, Sophia, and little Mia ate quickly, chatting excitedly about the new friends they had made at school. Maria listened, smiling despite her tiredness, feeling a warmth in her heart she hadn't experienced in a long time. Once the girls were ready, Maria walked them to school. They held her hand tightly, their small fingers intertwined with hers, and she felt a protective strength rise inside her. Seeing them excited and eager to go to school, rather than fearful of hunger or uncertainty, filled her with pride. It reminded her why she kept fighting every single day. After dropping the girls off, Maria headed to her new part-time job at the community center's kitchen. It was not a glamorous position, but it was honest work, and it gave her a chance to provide for her family while gaining new skills. The work was hard. She spent hours standing, chopping vegetables, stirring pots, and serving meals. Her body ached at the end of the day, but the satisfaction of knowing she was contributing to something meaningful made it worthwhile. Daniel occasionally visited, but never in a way that felt intrusive. He seemed to understand boundaries, always offering quiet support rather than overt interference. Some days he would drop off groceries or supplies, Other days, he would simply sit with the girls at the playground, making them laugh and teaching them small games. Slowly, Maria began to see him not just as a stranger who had helped them, but as someone she could trust, a steady presence in their otherwise unpredictable lives. One afternoon, Daniel came with a new idea. "There's an opportunity for you to work at a local cafe," he said, his voice calm and encouraging. "It's part-time, but it could help you build experience and the hours could fit with your daughter's school schedule." Maria hesitated. I don't know, Daniel. What if I fail?" "I've never worked in a cafe before. What if it's too much?" Daniel shook his head gently. "You won't fail. You're resourceful, strong, and determined. You faced more challenges than most people will in a lifetime. I know you can do this." After thinking it over, Maria decided to try. The cafe was small but welcoming, tucked into a quiet street not far from the girls' school. Her first day was intimidating. She fumbled with orders, spilled coffee, and struggled to keep up with the fast pace. But the staff were patient, and Maria's determination shone through. She stayed late to practice after her shift, learning quickly and gaining confidence. Back at the community center that evening, she sat with her daughters as they finished their homework. Ella was helping little Mia with reading, while Sophia proudly showed Maria her drawings. Maria smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. Despite all the hardships, life was beginning to stabilize. The girls were happy, safe, and growing in ways she hadn't imagined possible. One rainy afternoon, an emergency at the community center put Maria's courage to the test. A young boy had slipped in the wet hallway, and without hesitation, Maria rushed to help him. She caught him before he fell, preventing a serious injury. The volunteers and children looked at her with admiration and gratitude. Daniel, who had been nearby, witnessed the entire event. He saw not just her quick reflexes, but her instinctive care for others. "That's the kind of person you are," he said quietly later as they walked outside together. "You don't think about yourself first, you think about everyone else." Maria shook her head, a small smile on her face. "I'm just trying to do what's right," she said. "I can't help it if it's instinct," Daniel smiled. "And that instinct is what makes you extraordinary." Life continued in this steady rhythm. Maria's cafe job became easier, her confidence grew, and her daughters thrived in school. Ella excelled in reading and math, Sophia developed her artistic talents, and little Mia's curiosity seemed boundless. Maria often watched them playing in the park, laughter spilling into the air, and felt a quiet pride that she had almost forgotten was possible. Yet with all these small victories, Maria couldn't ignore the lingering fear that everything could be taken away again. The thought of losing the little stability they had fought so hard to achieve sometimes kept her awake at night. But Daniel's consistent presence provided reassurance. He never forced anything on her. Instead, he offered support when needed and encouragement when she doubted herself. One evening, as the girls were asleep, Daniel arrived with a thoughtful proposal. "Maria," he began, "I want to do more than just help you survive. You have the strength, the intelligence, and the courage to build a life for yourself and your daughters. I want to support you in making that possible." Maria's heart raced. She knew he was offering something significant, but the fear of dependence and the possibility of disappointment made her hesitate. I don't know if I'm ready for that," she admitted. "You don't have to decide right now," Daniel replied gently. "Just think about it. You've already proven that you can overcome incredible challenges. This is just a chance to take the next step." Over the next few days, Maria found herself thinking about Daniel's words constantly. She realized that his offer was more than material support. It was faith in her ability to succeed. And for the first time, she considered that maybe it was okay to accept help, that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone. At the community center, Maria continued to work hard. She organized meal plans, helped with events, and assisted other parents who were struggling. The sense of community gave her a renewed purpose. Her daughters' progress in school became a source of daily joy. Ella proudly recited stories she had learned, Sophia created colorful drawings to decorate the center, and little Mia's laughter was infectious, lifting the spirits of everyone around her. Daniel visited occasionally, quietly observing Maria's efforts and offering subtle guidance. One afternoon, he brought a small gift for the girls, a box of books for each of them. Ella received stories of adventure, Sophia got art books, and Mia received picture books with colorful illustrations. The girls were ecstatic, and Maria felt a lump in her throat seeing their joy. These small gestures mattered more than she could express. As the weeks passed, Maria noticed changes in herself too. She was becoming more confident, more organized, and more hopeful. She no longer felt like a victim of circumstances, but a mother who had the power to shape her family's future. The fear that had dominated her life slowly diminished, replaced by determination and courage. One evening, as she prepared dinner for the girls, she reflected on how far they had come. The thought of the stranger she had helped weeks ago, Daniel, filled her with gratitude. That simple act of kindness had transformed their lives, proving that one good deed could ripple into something far greater than imagined. Daniel's presence had grown into a quiet, steadfast support. He never demanded anything, never rushed her, and never judged. Instead, he offered guidance, encouragement, and resources that allowed Maria to rebuild her life at her own pace. His patience and respect gave her the confidence to take steps she never thought possible. One rainy night, as they all sat together sharing a simple meal, Maria realized something profound. She had been lost, struggling to survive, but she had never given up hope completely. And now, with her daughters safe, their lives slowly stabilizing, and a friend she could trust by her side, she began to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. She looked at her daughters, Ella's bright eyes, Sophia's confident smile, Mia's innocent curiosity, and felt a sense of purpose stronger than any fear. These were her reasons to keep going, to keep fighting, and to accept the help offered to her. Life was no longer just about survival. It was about growth, love, and hope. And as Maria lay down to sleep that night, she whispered quietly to herself, "We are stronger than we know, and no matter what comes, we will face it together." The next morning promised new opportunities, new challenges, and new chances to grow. Maria knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time she felt ready to embrace it fully. With her daughters by her side and Daniel's quiet support, she was no longer just surviving. She was rebuilding, learning, and moving toward a future she had once thought impossible. The morning sun spilled golden light across the small community center room, gently waking Maria. Her daughters were still asleep, their small bodies curled under blankets, and she paused for a moment to watch them. Ella's hand rested on Sophia's shoulder, and little Mia hugged a soft, stuffed toy. The sight made Maria's chest swell with a mixture of love, pride, and determination. They had come so far, and yet today promised something even more significant. Daniel had visited the night before with a proposal that made Maria's heart race. He had suggested helping her open a small cafe, a place where she could work, earn a steady income, and even create a safe and warm environment for her daughters. At first, Maria had hesitated. The idea of starting a business felt overwhelming, and she feared failing. But as she watched her daughters sleeping peacefully, she realized that the opportunity wasn't just about her. It was about them too. They deserved stability, safety, and a life full of possibilities. By mid-morning, Maria was awake and ready. She made a quick breakfast for her daughters, trying to appear calm and cheerful, though her mind raced with the day ahead. Ella, Sophia, and Mia noticed the excitement in her eyes, and their chatter was full of questions. "Mama, are we really going to have a cafe?" Ella asked. Maria smiled, ruffling her hair. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to try something new, and I think it's going to be wonderful." After breakfast, they walked to the location Daniel had found for the cafe. It was a small building, tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. The walls were in need of fresh paint, and the floors creaked slightly, but Maria saw potential. She imagined tables where children could laugh freely, a counter where she could serve warm coffee and meals, and a small corner with toys and books for her daughters and other children. Daniel stood beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. "It will take time," he said. "But I know you can do it. You have the courage and determination to make it work." Maria nodded, a mixture of nerves and excitement flooding her. She could hardly believe this was happening. Just a few months ago, they had been sleeping in a shelter, unsure where the next meal would come from. And now, she was standing in front of a building that could change their lives forever. The first weeks were the hardest. Maria had never run a business before, and there was much to learn. She painted walls, arranged furniture, and learned about ordering supplies, handling money, and serving customers. Daniel visited often, offering advice and guidance without ever taking control. He encouraged her to ask questions, to experiment, and to trust her instincts. Her daughters helped too. Ella and Sophia cleaned small areas, set tables, and even helped create decorations for the cafe. Mia, though small, contributed by keeping her favorite stuffed toys in a corner for the children who might visit. The cafe slowly transformed from a quiet, empty building into a welcoming, warm space filled with love, care, and small touches that reflected Maria and her family. Opening day arrived. Maria's heart pounded as she unlocked the door and flipped the sign from closed to open. The first few customers trickled in: neighbors, friends from the community center, and some curious passers-by. Maria greeted each with a smile, offering warm coffee, pastries, and a friendly conversation. She felt a deep sense of pride and accomplishment with every order she served. Her daughters were by her side, their laughter and excitement filling the cafe. Ella carefully helped arrange chairs, Sophia added little drawings to the walls, and Mia greeted visitors with shy waves. The cafe was more than a business. It had become a safe and joyful space where they could all thrive. Daniel watched quietly from a corner, a proud smile on his face. He had helped them survive and rebuild, but now he saw Maria taking the lead, her strength and determination shining brighter than ever. "You've done an amazing job," he said quietly when Maria took a brief break. Maria smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." Daniel shook his head. "No, Maria, you did this. I only gave you a little support. The courage, the patience, and the love, it's all yours." As weeks turned into months, the cafe grew in popularity. Neighbors returned for warm meals and friendly conversation, and Maria's daughters flourished in their new routine. Ella excelled in school and helped her mother manage small tasks at the cafe. Sophia's artistic talents were noticed by visitors, some of whom even bought her drawings to support the family. Mia's laughter continued to brighten the cafe, reminding everyone that life could be joyful even after hardship. Maria herself found a confidence she had never known. She became organized, creative, and patient, learning how to manage the cafe, balance work with her family, and navigate the challenges of running a business. Every day brought new lessons, but also new rewards. She saw firsthand the impact of her dedication, not just on her daughters, but on the community she had built around them. One evening, after a particularly busy day, Maria sat with Daniel outside the cafe, watching the sun set behind the buildings. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the gentle evening breeze carried the faint scent of flowers from the nearby shop. "I can't believe how far we've come," Maria said softly. Daniel nodded, his eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. "It's remarkable. You've turned what could have been despair into hope and opportunity. You've given your daughters a life they deserve." Maria smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. "I never thought we could get here," she admitted. "But I'm learning that sometimes help comes in unexpected ways. And when you accept it, it can change everything." Daniel reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You saved me once, Maria, by sharing what little you had, and now you've rewritten your own story. You've shown courage, love, and resilience. That's why I knew you could succeed." Maria looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in us, for trusting me, and for giving us this chance." As the weeks continued, the cafe became a hub for the community. Families came for warm meals, children played in the small reading corner, and neighbors gathered to share stories. Maria's daughters thrived in school and in life, growing confident, happy, and loved. Maria herself discovered a strength she hadn't known she possessed, a combination of courage, determination, and compassion that guided every decision she made. Daniel remained a steady presence, offering support without ever overstepping. His faith in Maria gave her the confidence to make bold choices, take risks, and trust in herself. Their friendship deepened, built on respect, understanding, and shared experiences of hardship and hope. One evening, as Maria closed the cafe after a long day, she sat with her daughters in the small office. Ella leaned against her shoulder, Sophia held her hand, and little Mia rested her head on the desk. Maria felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They had faced hunger, fear, and uncertainty, yet here they were, stronger, happier, and together. "I'm proud of all of you," Maria said softly, brushing Ella's hair from her face. "You've been brave, patient, and kind. We've come so far, and we're going to keep moving forward together." The girls smiled, their eyes shining with love and trust. "We love you, Mama," they said in unison. Maria felt tears prick her eyes. She hugged them tightly, feeling the warmth and strength of their bond. In that moment, she realized that all the struggles, all the nights of fear and uncertainty had led to this. An unbreakable family, a safe home, and a bright future. Outside, the city lights twinkled, and the streets were alive with people going about their lives. But inside the cafe, a small family had found peace, happiness, and hope. Maria looked around, taking in the familiar sights, the tables she had arranged, the decorations her daughters had made, and the laughter of children still lingering in the room. Everything was imperfect, yet perfect in its own way. She thought back to the stranger she had helped that cold night, the one she had shared her small meal with despite having so little. Who would have imagined that act of kindness would set in motion a chain of events that would transform their lives? That small gesture had led to Daniel's unwavering support, the stability of the community center, the opportunity of the cafe, and a future full of hope. Maria closed her eyes for a moment and whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. She was no longer just surviving. She was living, thriving, and building a life full of love, safety, and opportunity for her daughters. The past hardships had shaped her, but they no longer defined her. That night, as the girls fell asleep peacefully, Maria stayed up a little longer, reflecting on their journey. She thought about the moments of fear, the nights of hunger, and the endless uncertainty. And she thought about the courage, love, and hope that had brought them through. She knew that challenges would come again, life was never without them. But she also knew that she and her daughters were strong enough to face them. Together, they had rewritten their story. Together, they had created a life filled with warmth, safety, and possibility. And somewhere, Daniel watched from a distance, quietly proud, knowing that Maria had taken the first step toward a future she had never imagined, and that she would continue to grow, thrive, and lead her daughters with love and courage. Maria finally lay down, exhausted but fulfilled, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. The cafe, her daughters, and the community around her were a testament to resilience, kindness, and the power of believing in oneself. And as she drifted to sleep, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, strong and unafraid.